Hello everyone. Let's see a brief overview of major metabolic pathways of carbohydrate metabolism. Carbohydrate metabolism revolves around the breakdown of glucose to generate ATP. All ingested starches and other sugars such as lactose, sucrose are converted to glucose. First major metabolic pathway of carbohydrate metabolism is glycolysis. It occurs in cytosol and consists of a series of steps that break down glucose to pyruvate, which can undergo aerobic or anaerobic respiration. In anaerobic respiration, in RBC, pyruvate is converted to lactate. In aerobic respiration, pyruvate crosses from cytosol to mitochondria. And in the mitochondria, this pyruvate is converted to acetyl-CoA. This acetyl-CoA then enters TCA cycle and generate NADH and FADH2 that are used in the electron transport chain, and in the presence of oxygen, ATP is generated. Next metabolic pathway is glycogenesis, means synthesis of glycogen from glucose. In the well-fed state, the excess amount of glucose is converted to glycogen and it occurs in liver and muscle. The synthesis of glycogen from glucose is called as glycogenesis, which occurs under the influence of hormone insulin. Next metabolic pathway in carbohydrate metabolism is glycogenolysis, that is the breakdown of glycogen to form glucose. In fasting and starvation, under the influence of hormone glucagon, this glycogen is broken down to form glucose. This process is known as glycogenolysis. Next pathway is gluconeogenesis, means formation of new glucose from non-carbohydrate precursors like pyruvate, lactate, glycerol and some glucogenic amino acids. That is gluconeogenesis. It occurs in the condition of fasting and starvation under the influence of hormone glucagon. Next pathway is uronic acid pathway. Here glucuronic acid is formed. And this pathway is important in conjugation reaction and in the synthesis of glycoproteins and proteoglycans. Next pathway is HMP shunt or pentose phosphate pathway. Here NADPH and ribose 5-phosphate are formed. This ribose 5-phosphate is important for the synthesis of nucleic acids like DNA and RNA and coenzymes like NAD, FAD, ATP and coenzyme A. NADPH is important for the synthesis of fatty acids, cholesterol and ketone bodies. Coming to acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA can be used to generate fatty acids, ketone bodies and cholesterol. Acetyl-CoA can form fatty acids which then combines with glycerol to form triglycerides which are stored in adipose tissue. But in conditions like fasting and starvation, when glucose is low and glycogen is depleted, this triglycerides in adipose tissue is converted again to fatty acids and glycerol. Glycerol enters glycolytic pathway and is used in gluconeogenesis. Then fatty acids from triglycerides undergo fatty acid oxidation and form acetyl-CoA. This acetyl-CoA can enter into TCA cycle which then again produces ATP through electron transport chain. Proteins are broken down into amino acids which can be converted to acetyl-CoA which can then enter into TCA cycle and produce ATP. Here ammonia is produced as a byproduct which is used for urea production. These amino acids are again used in TCA cycle and there will be ATP synthesis. So the first major metabolic pathway of carbohydrate metabolism is glycolysis. Here this pathway in the cytosol that converts glucose to pyruvate in aerobic respiration and to lactate in anaerobic respiration and produces a small amount of ATP. Next one is glycogenesis. There is a series of reactions that result in the synthesis of glycogen from glucose in the cytosol of liver and muscle. Next one is glycogenolysis, that is the breakdown of glycogen to form glucose in liver and muscle. Next one is gluconeogenesis, that is the formation of new glucose from non-carbohydrate precursors like pyruvate, lactate, glycerol and glucogenic amino acids. Next one is citric acid cycle, a series of reactions that convert acetyl-CoA to produce carbon dioxide and water. It also generates a proton gradient in the mitochondria that drives ATP formation. Next one is electron transport chain. A series of protein complexes in the inner mitochondrial membrane that couple transport of electrons with ATP formation. Next one is HMP shunt or pentose phosphate pathway, a pathway that oxidizes glucose 6-phosphate to generate NADPH and ribose 5-phosphate. Next one is uronic acid pathway that produces glucuronic acid. Liver has a role in carbohydrate metabolism by maintaining normoglycemia. During hypoglycemia, carbohydrate stored in liver as glycogen is hydrolyzed to glucose through glycogenolysis. When glycogen is insufficient, this glucose is produced from amino acids pyruvate, lactate and glycerol by gluconeogenesis. With inadequate glucose in diet, this blood glucose is maintained at the expense of body proteins. And the stored lipids are also depleted during this starvation, and lipid serves as an alternate source of energy as glucose cannot be synthesized from fats. Glucose metabolism is subject to hormonal regulation, allosteric enzyme control and regulation of gene expression. Appropriate regulation of glucose metabolism is essential for health and survival. So this is about overview of carbohydrate metabolism. This is today's topic. Thank you for watching.